Okay, so it's almost 8:30. People will, maybe a few more people will keep joining us. So we'll get started. Anyways, the session is recorded. So people who are joining late or people who are not able to join, they will get the recording sessions as well. Okay, so a big thank you and a warm welcome to the first session of the BW4HANA 2.0 online training. Thank you very much. I have received the subscriptions or the nominations for this, and the registration is closed today. So if you have your friends and colleagues who want to join this, the next batch will be starting somewhere in October, so they can join there. Okay, so today, the first session, we will see few things which are necessary for the training. We will see some important links, and we will also go through the course structure, what we are going to cover in BW4HANA 2.0 training. So before we delve deep into it, just a little bit about myself. Many of you already know who have attended my introductory session. They already know about me. But for people who are joining me for the first time, I just want to quickly introduce myself. My name is Devanshu Mukherjee, and I primarily come from a BW HANA background. So I have around 14, right now 15 actually, 15 years of total experience. Majority of that went into SAP BW. I have around 8 implementation experience. Then I also have SAP HANA experience, which is native HANA, both 1.0 and 2.0. I did a few implementations there. I also got a chance to work on BPC, BWIP, and I'm currently doing a BPC embedded project. So I have few implementation and support experiences there. And of course, needless to mention, ABAP is an integral part of any BW implementation or BPC implementation. So I have good experience there. And recently, I was fortunate to get my hands on SAC, SAP Analytics Cloud. I recently completed my second project on SAC. So I have a little bit of an experience there. So that's in a nutshell about myself. And let's see what we are going to cover in this session. So before that, I would request all of you to put yourself on mute. If you have any questions, we will have the question and answer session after the main class, half an hour. After the main class, I'm going to dedicate that half an hour for purely questions and answers. So in between, if we take too many questions, then we might get distracted. So that's why I would request all of you to put on mute. And I will, if you have any questions, take a note of those questions, and I will definitely attend to that. Don't worry, at the end. So we will see the OneDrive sharing protocol, which I follow during my trainings, meaning I'm going to show you the OneDrive materials, which I'll be sharing, how I share the class notes, how you can access the recording links, so on and so forth. So we'll see that. Then we'll go through the course structure, the complete course structure, what we are going to cover, in fact, on which day we are going to cover what, that kind of details also you can get. Then we will go into the definition of BW. I know many of you are seasoned BW consultants, but there are people who have either never worked on BW, or they have not worked much, maybe 3 or 4 years of experience, not much. So for people who are new to BW or who have less experience, we'll also see some basic definitions so that it will be kind of a refresher for all of us. And we'll also see how BW evolved from the traditional BW to BW4HANA. Then we will look into the architecture of BW4HANA, which is very important for all of us to keep in mind, because if you understand the architecture well, then the training will become easier, the hands-on exercises will become easier, and you can follow better. Then we will also look at the differences between native HANA modeling and BW4HANA modeling. Many people are still confused because when they hear the term HANA, they think that it is the calculation views and procedures. But BW4HANA is a completely different modeling paradigm. Of course, it is tightly integrated with SAP HANA. But when I talk about BW4HANA, we are talking about application server, not the database. And when we talk about native HANA, we are actually talking about modeling within the HANA database. So we'll talk about that. Then I will also show you licensing. What are the different types of licensing available for BW4HANA, so that you are aware of which licensing is probably followed in your client, or which licensing is appropriate for you. Then I will show you the new Eclipse feature, because now we don't do modeling in the backend SAP GUI anymore. Everything has moved on to Eclipse for the modeling, and there are other tools like BW4HANA Cockpit. We have the BW query inside the Eclipse. We have transformations inside the Eclipse. So you have to get familiar. If you're not already familiar, you have to get familiar with the Eclipse tool and how you can access BW4HANA application server within Eclipse. Then we will see some salient features of SAP HANA as a DB, why there is a big fuzz about HANA, why HANA is becoming popular, or what is the USP, unique selling proposition for the HANA database. Then we will quickly jump into the system. I'll show you how to set up your Eclipse project. I'll show you the modeling tools, how you can set up your BW4HANA modeling tools. We will also see BW4HANA Cockpit. And finally, we will end with the questions and answers. Starting tomorrow, the second session, what I'm going to do is I'm going to also log in half an hour early. So at 8 o'clock, I will log in my time, and I will take half an hour pre-class questions and answer session. And then after the class, again, half an hour questions and answers. It's not mandatory for you to attend that. People who have questions, they can stay back, or they can log in early and ask their questions. But those will be recorded as well, and you will get the recording for those sessions. If you miss, don't worry, you can see the recording later on. All right, so with that, let's get started. So first thing first, I want to show you the OneDrive sharing. I have already sent an email with all the details, so you already should be having all the details, but let me reiterate this. So the way I share material and the way I share the recording links and everything is through OneDrive. So there is going to be a OneDrive folder which will say batch 2 weekend batch 0830_1030. Okay, so that is your batch folder, and within that batch folder you will have first folder as material. Now in that material you will have certification material, meaning people who are aiming at the certification after this course. I have certification material both for full certification, which is C underscore, and for delta or specialized certification, which is E underscore. So there is a different code for these certifications. So I have material for both certification. This is for full, and then this is for delta. For delta, there is just one book, BW462. So you will have that book in the material. The second folder is the topic-wise material, meaning you will have, if we are going through advanced DSO, for example, you will have the material for advanced DSO, which will give you more insights into the advanced DSO. Similarly, if you have, if you are dealing with LSA++, you will have material for that. You'll have the comparison between BW on HANA and for HANA, you will have material for that. Delta merge, composite providers, CDS, when we talk about CDS views, when we'll deal with CDS views, you will have material for that. In fact, for CDS view, there is this S04D430. There's a book from SAP. This is a very good book for anyone who wants to get started with CDS views. So I've shared that. But in the training, we will do the hands-on, so you will come to know. Then OpenODS views, transformations, etc. So these are topic-specific material. Then at the end of this training, people who are appearing for certification, who are taking the certification, for them, I also have a list of 80 practice questionnaire. So you can practice your knowledge, your experience, or your hands-on, whatever you have done against these 80 questions, try to answer them. Okay, so I have two tabs here. The first tab is going to be the questions, okay, and the second tab is going to be answers. So of course, you should take the questions first without looking at the answers. That way you can test your knowledge, how well you are faring against these questions, and this will also give you an idea of what kind of questions you can expect in the certification. Okay, let me quickly close this. Okay, so that is a certification. Then I have an SAP Press book also as an miscellaneous material, where this is a SAP Press book for BW4HANA. So you can also go through that for further reference. And then finally, we have the scenario So this is a very important folder, because we will keep revisiting this folder. Now, in my training, I don't just throw concepts at you. We will start with an actual business scenario or a business requirement. And that requirement is 2 reports. The client needs 2 reports in SAC. So that's my end goal. So the end result of this training is going to be 2 reports. Okay, sales header and sales item details. And both these reports we will create in BW, and finally we will also create in SAC, SAP Analytics Cloud. So we'll have to go through that integration between BW4HANA and SAP Analytics Cloud, and then we'll create a model on a live connection, and then we'll create stories. So that's the end-to-end hands-on exercises and hands-on we will do. We will start with BW, we will start with data sources, we will build a BW flow, we'll build the BW query, and then we'll also build the SAC. So that's where we'll end. So it will always be with respect to the customer requirement. So we'll build our data flow on this. So that's why it's important that we'll come to this folder again and again. We have multiple tabs for header. You have to do some enhancements. The enhancements are there, the data source enhancements. Then you have the info sources, so on and so forth. So all the details are here. And based on these, we will create our data flow. So this is purely based on a customer scenario, based on a requirement. Okay, so that's what I have shown. Then going back to the material, you will have questions and answers. So as I said, half an hour before and half an hour after, we are going to have questions and answers. So the way I'm going to answer them is, you have to come here and create an Excel sheet with your name. So I've given an example, questions_Debanshu. So say, for example, if I have questions which I need answer for, then I'll come here, I'll create an Excel sheet. And in that Excel sheet, I'm going to put my questions. And you have to put from which session, after which session these questions arose in your mind, or from which session these questions are there, and then the session date. And as and when I answer the question, I'm going to put them in green. Green meaning these will be answered already, so that going forward, we know that which questions are answered and which questions are still pending. So please, I would encourage you from tomorrow onwards, create your own Excel sheet in this folder, and I will log in half an hour. I'll open the Excel sheet and I'll try to answer. Those sessions will also be recorded. Then you have recording links. So this is a Word document. And if I open the Word document, you will see that for every recording, whatever, as we go through the, or while we progress through the classes, we will have the links updated here. So for today's class, after the class is done, after the recording is uploaded on YouTube, you will have the link here. You can come here and access the recording for specific classes. That's one way. So this is where you will find the links for all the classes as and when we progress. So we have the playlist. There is a YouTube playlist. Okay. So let me log into the YouTube playlist. This is the playlist, BW4HANA Training Batch 2. Now, either you can come to this Word document and click on individual links, or you can bookmark this URL for this particular playlist on YouTube. This is a private playlist, so it is not available to the public. So I will provide you specific access to specific people, whoever has enrolled, and you will be able to see the videos adding on a weekly basis. Videos will be added here. And if you bookmark this, you will find the videos here. You don't have to go to the Word document every time. But if you want to jump to a specific session link, then this is also an alternate way. Okay, going back, then we have something called the class specific folders. So this material will be your topic specific, but there will be individual folders for every class. So whatever OneNote we are discussing, right? Whatever class notes we are discussing, I am going to put that in two formats, OneNote format and PDF format. Why two formats? Because many people have complained in the previous batch that OneNote does not work on MacBook and it's not opening properly, and they are not able to see the links and the notes. So for them, I have also created another format, which will be a PDF format. So same thing, whatever notes are here, will also be in the PDF format, which you can easily access. Doesn't matter if you're on a Windows machine, you're on a MacBook or any other machine. So you'll be able to access PDF easily. For people who can access OneNote, who are comfortable with OneNote, they can access the OneNote class note. And then there is a meeting link. So meeting link most likely will not change. Okay, this is going to be the constant meeting link for every class. So you can save this, or every time you can come here and you can click here and you will join the meeting. But in any case, if due to any reason I have to change the meeting link, then I will update the meeting link here. Okay, I'm not going to send email every time. That's going to be cumbersome. The best way is I'll update it here. You are supposed to come here and check whether the meeting link is, if it's updated, then you can join directly from here, which by the way will not happen, but there can be scenarios where I might have to change the meeting link due to some issues. So you'll always find the updated meeting link here. Okay, so that's how we'll go about the BW4HANA training. So everything will be there in your batch 2 folder, and all the materials, all the class notes, everything you can find in one place. Okay. Any questions on this? All right. So let's move ahead. So that's what I have shown. You have the meeting link, you have the class specific folder, you have your topic specific folder, you have your recording links Word document, and you have your certification practice questionnaire as well. Okay, and then I've also shown you the YouTube playlist, so you can bookmark that if you want, or you can come to the Word document for each session's link. Both ways are there. Okay, so moving on, let's quickly see the course structure and details. I have already gone through in my introductory session, but for people who have not been able to attend that, let's revisit this course structure quickly. So who is this course for? This course is for BW consultants with basic BW knowledge. Okay, primarily this course is geared towards them. However, if you don't have any BW background, this course will still help you, because we are going to go from scratch. All the objects the BW4HANA offers, we are going to see from scratch. But I'm not going to go back to previous BW versions and explain what is an info cube, what is a standard DSO, because those are obsolete now. So we are not going to go into the discussion of those objects. The new objects in BW4HANA, yes, we are going to discuss them from scratch in detail, but not the older objects. So it's better if you have basic BW knowledge, but if you don't have, maybe you have to slog a little bit harder than others, but because I'm covering the new objects from scratch, you will still benefit from this course. Also, front-end consultants who have primarily worked on front-end side like SAC, or who are BPC consultants, who are reporting users like business objects people or functional people who want to know more about the backend, what happens in the backend data warehouse, this course is also useful for them. And of course, anyone who's interested to start their career in BW, they will definitely immensely benefit from this course. Now, there are two certifications for BW4HANA. As I mentioned, E underscore and C underscore. C underscore is for associate level. E underscore is for expert level. So C underscore does not have any prerequisite. You can take this certification without any prerequisite, and you just have to book your certification in the cloud, CER006. It's part of that cloud subscription. And once you are, if you have BW on HANA certification already, which can be 7.3 on HANA, 7.4 on HANA, and 7.5 on HANA. So any of them, if you already have, then you can take E underscore directly. You don't have to go to C underscore. So this is for Delta. So, but it has prerequisites. So you should have this certification already. So I've given the link for both, and we have the certification material for both of them in the OneDrive folder. The vendor, let's talk about that. So I don't provide servers, first of all. You have to arrange the servers on your own. But I recommend a vendor, and that vendor is GetTrained. So there are multiple vendors in the market. Okay, so it's not mandatory that you have to go with them. they will charge a little more than others. So I think the price for this particular training, I have negotiated with them, and a special price only for this particular training is 5,000 Indian rupees per month. So that is the cost. And I know there are other vendors who will give 2,000, 2,500 rupees per month as well. So wherever you are getting the best price, please go with them. The reason I go with these guys is the support, okay, server and support. So I have had bad experiences with other vendors. They will provide you the server, but when you have an issue, or if you are facing a dump, or if some feature is not working, they will not be able to address that. You will keep chasing them via emails, and you will get annoyed. Okay, so but this guy, I have found that the support is excellent. If there is a problem, they will come on a call with you, on a Zoom call or some other Google Meet call, and they will try to resolve that ASAP. And they also have the best servers in terms of the version. So they have BW4HANA, B4H, they have 2.0 SP4, which is N-1. Latest is SP5, so they have SP4. Then they have S/4HANA 1909, which is the latest. They also have ODP enabled, okay. They also have SDA enabled, so that I can show you how SDA works. And they also have SAC integrated. Okay, this is also one of the major points why I'm going with them. They have the SAC integrated with BW4HANA, meaning that if you have your SAC instance, your trial account from SAP, you can easily connect to their BW4HANA system, because there are some configuration steps. So they have already taken care of those configuration steps, and you can easily connect any SAC trial instance with their BW4HANA server. And of course, the support, that is the best I found with them. But yes, they charge a little bit extra than the other vendors, but it's completely your decision. Okay, so how we are going to go about this course? As I said, we will always start with a business scenario. So there's going to be a requirement for a custom story from SAC. That's the end goal. So we'll start with the blueprint, like I showed you in the Excel sheet, which we have the two reports, right? Sales item details and sales header, and we have to combine them also. So we'll start with that. We will start with native HANA modeling using HANA CVs, table functions, database procedures, and all of them will be based on smart data access virtual tables. We also create staging tables. First, we'll have to create virtual tables, and then we'll create staging tables, and then we are going to create our HANA models. Now, this HANA is not 2.0 HDI. Okay, I am following here Access Classic, Access C, which is there in 1.0. It is also there in 2.0. And the reason I'm following Access Classic, I'm not going for Access Advanced, is because the generated CVs out of the BW4HANA info providers like ADSOs, composite providers, are still in Access Classic. They are not being generated in Access Advanced. And also in the server, I have not tested fully all the features of Access Advanced. So that's why I'm sticking to Access Classic for the HANA modeling. But I will also show you, if you have HANA 2.0 Access Advanced calculation views, how to consume them. What is the setting in BW with which you can consume those CVs in your composite provider. So I'm going to show you that. Okay, so once we are done with the native modeling, we will go on with the standard data sources, creating and enhancing the standard BW data sources, which is your logistics cockpit data sources. Hello cockpit, which is your 2LIS 11 VA HDR, okay, and 2LIS 11 VA ITM. So we will look at the process in BW4HANA, in S4HANA, how the process has changed for activating the Hello cockpit. The process more or less is the same, but there is one addition which SAP has done for the activation of those data sources and filling of setup tables for those data sources. So we will see how to activate and enhance those data sources. That is also very important, because the way the data sources are enhanced has changed. It is no more with the CMOD code. Now you have to use BADI and RSU5 data source BADI, and I will show you how you can use the BADI. We will do the enhancement together, and you will have to do the exercise for that as well. Then we will also create CDS views and custom CDS views based extractors we will create. And these CDS views we'll have to create in S4HANA. And I will also provide you the basic introduction of CDS views, what are the types of CDS views, and then we will create a custom CDS view. And then we'll also create an extractor, BW data source based on the CDS view. And when we do that, we will do delta mechanism, both generic delta, which will not use the ODQ, operational delta queues, and we will use the annotation based delta, which uses the ODQ. So with CDS view, you can have two types of delta mechanism. One is generic without ODQs, and one is annotation based, which is on ODQ, using the ODQs. So we will do both hands-on. Then I will also show you how this new ODQ concept works, how the subscription based delta mechanism works. Operational delta queues have replaced the traditional RSA7 delta queues. So we will understand that in detail. Then once we are done with the standard extractor enhancement and CDS views, then we will start creating the BW side of the objects, which are ADSOs, DTPs, and transformation. So we'll create staging ADSOs, we will create standard ADSOs, and we'll also create routines in the transformation using AMDP class and methods. The new way of writing routines in BW has changed again from normal ABAP. It is now an AMDP class and method. And I'm going to show you how a start routine can be written in AMDP, how a field routine is written in AMDP, and how an end routine is written in AMDP. We'll write all the three routines in AMDP class and method. AMDP is basically the code pushed down to HANA database. So transformation logic, whatever routines, the complex logic you are writing, that will be executed as a database procedure. That's what happens when an AMDP class and method is created. So we'll see that. Then we'll also create open ODS views for virtual access. So the customer scenario will also force us to use open ODS views. So we'll see what they are and why they are used and how we can virtually access the data without replicating into BW using open ODS views. Then once we have our HANA models done, our BW models done, and our open ODS views done, finally we will create a composite provider based on all these three, based on the ADSOs we created, based on the open ODS views we created, and the HANA CVs we created when we did the native modeling. So we'll create a composite provider based on all the three, one single composite provider. And I'll also show you here that if your HANA CV has an input parameter or a variable, how they are used and what special steps you have to take in BW to make sure that you can consume a HANA CV with input parameter or with variables. Then I'll also show you some new features of composite provider, which was introduced in 2.0 SP4, which is aggregation node, projection node, SQL filter, and calculated column in a composite provider. Okay, so we'll see that. Then we will create a custom query. So once we are done with the composite provider, we'll create a custom BW query in Eclipse. So we'll see how it's done. And then based on the BW query, we will create the SAC integration. But within the BW query, we are going to create customer exit variables using the new baddie method and HANA exit variables again using the new baddie method. In case of HANA exit variables, I will show you how you can write an AMDP class and method to implement the code for the new baddie. Again, this is a new process which has changed in BW4HANA, right? These baddies are not new, but the default way has now moved from the regular customer exit SMOD to these baddies. So you should be familiar with the baddies. You should be familiar with the class and methods, and you should be familiar with the AMDP code, how we can write that for these exit variables. So we'll see that, we'll do that in the system. Then we will also create a BW process chain in the cockpit. So the new place where you create your process chains has changed from the backend GUI to your cockpit. You can still do it in the backend GUI, it's not gone, but that's not the recommended place anymore. You have to do it in the BW4HANA cockpit, and I'll show you how you can do that, and we'll together create a process chain. We will also try to activate the streaming process chain feature for the near real-time extraction, which is a new feature for your real-time daemon-based deltas in process stream. So we'll see that. Then we will also see how PSA has been replaced. Persistent staging area has been an integral part of all BW versions prior to BW4HANA. In BW4HANA, it is no longer there. It is obsolete. So we will see that what has replaced PSA. And the table which has replaced PSA is inbound table of the ADSO. So now the modification you used to do in PSA, remember the request used to come into PSA, we used to edit the PSA and push it from PSA. That functionality has moved from PSA to the inbound table of advanced DSO. So you can now edit your records in the inbound table, but not for all types of ADSOs. So we'll see what types of ADSOs can allow the modification of data in the inbound table. So that has replaced PSA. So we'll look into that. And finally, once our BW is ready, we will configure CORS. CORS stands for Cross Origin Resource Sharing. This is the mechanism which allows the connectivity between SAC and BW. And there are certain steps you have to do, configuration steps. So I'll show you step by step what you have to do. And once the CORS is established, we will create a live connection based on BW4HANA in SAC. We will create models, two models, one for item, one for header. And then we'll create a story in SAC where we'll combine the header and item. So this is where we will end. So this is the end-to-end scenario we are going to cover, and we're going to do hands-on. And if time permits, okay, there are some advanced topics. If time permits, then I'll also try to cover the analysis authorizations on ADSO, the CV which are generated from the info providers, the inventory data flow, which is another important feature, streaming process chain details, open hubs, and migration scenarios. So migration is a whole new topic in itself. That's why we are not going to cover in detail, but if time permits, we are definitely going to touch upon the migration process from a traditional BW to BW4HANA. Okay. Course duration is 7 weeks. It starts today and 13 September is I'm targeting to end that on 13 September. It's going to be weekends only, Saturday and Sunday. And timing, as you can see, 8:30 to 10:30, 2 hours. But then I will also have questions and answer session, pre-class and post-class. So today we are only going to have post-class, but starting tomorrow, we will have a pre-class Q&A as well. Software use is Zoom meeting. Of course, the link you can find in the Word document in the OneDrive folder. And recordings will be available on YouTube. It's a private videos. I'll be sharing those videos specifically to you guys, and you should be able to access with your email IDs which you have registered with. So please make sure that in YouTube, when you log in, please use the same email ID which you have used for the registration. In that way, you can access the videos. If you log in with some other email address, then you will not be able to access those videos. And if you want to change your email address, then please let me know. I can update the email address, and then accordingly, you can log in with that particular email address and access the videos. Q&A, as I mentioned, 30 minutes before, 30 minutes after. And then these are day specific, day wise, what we are going to cover. Okay, so you can go through that. I'm not going to go into that detail because we have a lot of ground to cover, but those details you can check. And if you have any questions, you can get back to me. All right, any questions on the course structure and details? I can take maybe 1 or 2 questions now.
Debanshu, this is Nagarjuna.
Yes, tell me.
It would be good if you can add some topic of FI also. I mean, I guess the whole FI extraction, how the total tables are now in S4HANA, AC.ia, because there is no standard data flow, AC.ia, as of now, there is no standard flow from AC.ia, though they have given an extractor. How the back end of that, earlier, if I remember correctly, on earlier versions, there are total tables, if we want to extract line item tables, we have one table called BW mon underscore some. How we see the delta timings from there.
Timestamp, the timestamp extractor.
Timestamp. Yeah.
Yes, BW OM2 TIMEST.
Yeah. That also, just as a topic.
I'll try. I cannot promise because it's going to take another maybe 2 or 3 sessions, but let me make sure. Let me do this. So I'll add it in the Where is that? Yeah, so I'll add it in the optional topic. Okay, let me make it as a first priority. So FI date new data source and extraction. Okay, if time permits, definitely I'll try to cover. Okay, and we'll see how the timestamp based extraction works. Okay, I've taken a note of that.
Thank you.
All right. So moving on. Now we are diving into the actual topic of BW. So far we have been discussing logistics, how the code structure is and how you can access it. And now let's start with the definition of BW and the evolution of BW. Okay, so what is BW? First of all, you have to understand. BW is the proprietary software from SAP for data warehousing. Okay, you can have a native HANA also as your data warehousing. You don't need to have BW mandatorily if you want to have a data warehousing solution from SAP. So you have to understand that SAP has products for cloud and SAP has products for on-premise. For on-premise, SAP has two sub-products, which are your BW4HANA and native HANA, SQL data warehousing. So if you have BW4HANA, then that will be your preferred data warehousing. But if you don't have BW4HANA, if you have just bought the license for the HANA database, then you can also do your complete data warehousing inside SAP HANA database. So both of them are geared towards on-premise solutions. But there is a cloud offering as well. Okay, what is that cloud offering? Data Warehouse Cloud. So it's a new tool from SAP, and this is completely cloud-based. Okay, this is for those people who don't have HANA or who don't have BW and they want to start afresh. They are ready for cloud, then they can go for that. Even if people have BW for HANA and native HANA, but they still want hybrid solution, meaning they want something in the cloud, something on-premise, then you can go for data warehousing plus BW for HANA or data warehousing plus native HANA. So BW4HANA is SAP's on-premise data warehousing solution, which is based on the ABAP layer. So you have to have the ABAP stack. So BW4HANA is based on ABAP server, and native HANA is completely based on the database only. No ABAP layer is required there. So these are the two on-premise proprietary software from SAP for data warehousing. BW4HANA ABAP based, native HANA just the database. Both are on-premise. For cloud, there's a separate product which is called Data Warehouse Cloud. Data Warehouse Cloud is not covered as part of this training. This training is focused on BW4HANA. So this is the evolution of BW for HANA. So the journey of BW actually is way back. It started in 1998. As you can see, 1.0, it started with 1.2, 2.x versions, 3.x version, 7.x version on HANA, and then for HANA. This is the overall journey of BW. And BW on HANA started in 2012. So far, before HANA actually as a database was introduced on 11th of June 2011. That's when it was made generally available. But prior to that, SAP used to use different vendors' databases like Oracle database or Microsoft SQL Server or IBM DB2. So these were some popular databases SAP used to use. But they decided in 2008 that they will start the work on a new database that will be their own database. Okay, no more third-party databases. They will have their own database and they will replace the databases which are used under their products with SAP HANA. And that's when the work started. It took 3 to 4 years, and in 2011, they were finally ready with SAP HANA. And SAP HANA was first launched in 2011, and the first software which had SAP HANA as the underlying database was BW. Okay, because replacing the HANA database or replacing the standard databases from ECC was a little bit of a risk at that time because HANA was new. So they started with BW. So BW 7.3 on HANA was the first version of BW, which was released on HANA in 2012, which was called Project Orange. And fortunately, I was a part of that project because I was with SAP Global Delivery that time. So I was a part of that project. In fact, I was one of the few individuals across the globe who got certified in BW on HANA during that time. So in 2012, they started with BW 7.3 on HANA. Then they further improved and optimized it in 2013, where they released 7.4 on HANA. By the way, you are seeing the terminology powered by HANA, and I am talking about on HANA. It's one and the same thing. Some people call it on HANA, some people call it powered by HANA. Don't get confused by the terminology. It's one and the same thing. So then in 2013, 7.4 on HANA was introduced, and in 2015, 7.5 on HANA was introduced. So that's where the NetWeaver version stopped. So 7.5, after 7.5, there is no 7.6. Why there is no 7.6? Because BW4HANA, when it was launched in 2016 February, it was not a successor of prior BW versions. That's why SAP stopped the versioning at 7.5. Because BW4HANA is no longer a part of NetWeaver stack. Okay, I repeat, BW4HANA is not a part of NetWeaver anymore. It is a completely new product on a lean ABAP server. Not a part of NetWeaver does not mean that ABAP is also gone. ABAP is definitely there. It is based on an ABAP application server, but NetWeaver components are gone. What are the NetWeaver components? Enterprise portal, for example, is gone. BSP, business server pages, is gone. So all the components which are Java stack related are gone in BW4HANA, no longer there. Java stack is no longer there in BW4HANA. It's a ABAP server, but it's a lean ABAP server. And when I say lean, meaning all the unnecessary code for Java stack is removed. So you cannot have enterprise portal anymore. You cannot have BSP server pages anymore. You cannot have anything which connected to Java stack. So that is completely trimmed away from BW4HANA code. And that's why they're calling it a lean ABAP server. It's basically a new product. And that's why the versioning also started with 1.0. BW4HANA 1.0, 2.0, so on and so forth. And right now the latest release is 2.0 SP5. So that's why in BW4HANA, you will not see 7.6 anymore. In 7.5, you can see a partition, right? Two versions, on HANA and addition for SAP HANA add-on. So this is basically a starter add-on. This add-on is required if you want to migrate your BW from your original 7.5 to BW4HANA. Okay. So as a part of the migration, you have to install a starter add-on, and that's what this add-on represents. Once you have the starter add-on installed, you are ready to go to BW4HANA. But there is not much difference between these two versions. Just the starter add-on is an additional component on top of that. That's all. Okay, but essentially it stopped. NetWeaver version of BW stopped at 7.5. And of course, the history goes way back. As I told, it's not a new product from SAP. 1998 it started, and today we have BW4HANA. All right, so let's look at the architecture of BW4HANA 2.0. This is a very important diagram. You have to understand this. And if you understand this, then you will not get confused between native HANA and BW4HANA. So you can see we have 4 boxes. Okay, I'll start from the bottom. So we have the HANA database as our underlying DB database, SAP HANA, which is 2.0. By the way, BW4HANA 2.0 cannot sit on HANA 1.0. BW4HANA 2.0 needs HANA 2.0 as the underlying database. BW4HANA 1.0 can sit on both, either 1.0 HANA DB or 2.0 HANA DB. But BW4HANA 2.0 cannot sit on HANA 1.0. It mandatorily needs 2.0 as the database version. So this is our database. We have a lot of components within the database. The main is the DB services. Then we have the SLT You can have the SLT connected to your HANA database. You can have your smart data access connected to your HANA database. And you have the main calculation engine, which does all the processing inside the HANA database. So this is your underlying HANA DB. Now within the HANA DB, there are two schemas which you have to understand. First is BW owned schema, meaning the application BW, which is sitting on top of the HANA database. This application, this guy will have a schema dedicated for BW. Okay, all the tables, all the views will be stored in that schema. That is called BW owned schema. Okay, we will not touch that schema usually. You are not supposed to create anything in that schema. BW application server owns that schema. And there are other schemas which are called external schemas, which are user created. Okay, not application created. Same thing will happen for S4HANA also. S4HANA's application server will have a dedicated schema where all the tables and everything will be stored. And then you can have external schemas as well. So both of them are possible. So I'll quickly show you in this server. So this is Eclipse. I'll discuss about Eclipse in a moment, but just to show you, this is my BW4HANA server. Okay, let me quickly log on to my BW4HANA server. So in the BW4HANA, password is incorrect. Okay, 1 second. So when you log in BW4HANA application server, please remember, when I'm logging in from Eclipse in the BW modeling perspective, okay, this is a BW modeling perspective. We'll talk about that also in a moment, don't worry. But when I'm logging in BW modeling perspective, in a project, you have to create a project first. I am logging where? I am logging here in the application server, not in the HANA database. Okay. So when you log in the BW modeling perspective as a project, which is a connection to your backend BW application server, you are actually logging into the application layer, not HANA database layer. So here, if I go to properties, if I click on the project, okay, so it will load some properties of the project. Now in the properties, in the system tab here in the properties, you can see the database is HDB, release is 2.0 SP4, the system name is B4H, and the schema is SAP HANA DB. This schema is the BW owned schema. This is the schema dedicated for your BW4HANA application server. And in addition to this schema, you can have additional schemas as well. Okay. For example, let me log into the HANA Studio. When you log into the HANA Studio and you go to the database perspective or your modeler perspective, you're actually logging in to your database directly. Now you're not dealing with the application server anymore. So here, if you log in, I'll just quickly log into the HANA database sitting under BW. And this is the HANA database sitting under S4HANA. We are not going there. We are going to the HANA database within the BW. There, if you expand the catalog, you will see there are multiple schemas. Like for example, I have my own schema. I have another schema created. This is external schema, user created schema. And where is my BW owned schema? This one, SAP HANA DB. You are not supposed to create anything here. You're not supposed to touch anything here. It is completely driven by your application server. So this is one of the most important differentiator you have to understand. What is a BW owned schema and what is a external schema. So that sits in the HANA DB. Then you have the second box where you have your ABAP server. This is called the lean ABAP BW4HANA server. Why lean? We already discussed. There is no Java stack. There is no Java related component there. Now within this application server, we have the analytic manager, which is useful for the query and all the OLAP features like exception aggregation and your query related features will be taken care by analytic manager. Then you have the data warehousing / modeling services, which will enable you to create your BW objects like advanced DSOs, composite providers, DTPs, transformations, etc. Then you have your metadata manager, which maintains the data about the objects. What objects are there? How many ADSOs are there? What are the configuration of the ADSO, etc. Then on the right side, you can see BW workspaces. This is also not a new concept, but it is improved in BW4HANA. And this is geared towards the end users. If the end users needs to quickly do some mock-up or POC, then the workspaces are assigned to the team and they can create the workspaces and work with them. And then if you want to send data out of BW to third-party systems, you have OpenHub, which is not also not a new concept. It was there in the prior versions, and it is also there in BW4HANA 2.0. Open hubs are used to send data out to third-party systems. And then on top of that, we have the reporting solutions. SAC is for cloud. If you have a cloud-based reporting, then you will go for SAP Analytics Cloud. We are going to use that in our training. Then you have on-premise reporting solutions, which is business objects, SAP business objects. And you also have Excel-based reporting with analysis for Office. So these are SAP tools, okay, cloud and on-premise tools. If you have other third-party tools, they can also easily connect to your BW4HANA server. You can have Tableau, Power BI, ClickView, Cognos, so on and so forth. So these are the third-party reporting tools which can connect to your BW4HANA server. And you can see on the left-hand side, we have the client tools, meaning the tools you will have to install on your machine to connect to the servers. So these are servers, right? But you need a software just like your SAP GUI. So this is your traditional SAP GUI, SAP NetWeaver. This is a client software you will have to install on your machine so that you can connect to these guys, the servers. So similarly, Eclipse is also a client tool. This is the Eclipse. It's also a client tool which is used to connect to the servers. So I will add my servers here and I will connect to the servers. So those are your client tools. For BW4HANA, you have to have Eclipse, number one, and within Eclipse, you have to have BW modeling perspective. Okay, there are a lot of perspectives as part of Eclipse. You can have your development, modeler. These are native HANA related perspective if you want to do native HANA modeling. And you also have ABAP and BW modeling. You need both of them. If you want to do modeling for BW4HANA in Eclipse, you need these two perspectives, ABAP and BW modeling. So these are the necessary client tools you have to install before you can start working with the modeling and before you can start connecting to the server. How you can install it? If a fresh installation is there for Eclipse, you will not have these perspectives. How you can install this is you can go to help, you can click on install new software, and then you can add a site here which is called HANA Tools, tools.hana.ondemand.com/2019. Now it is 2020, 2020-06 or 2020-03. There you go, right? So if you add this, no, not this, this is for Eclipse. We have for HANA Tools also, maybe it's not added here, but you will have 2020-03 or 2020-06 as the latest one. You can use that. Once you add the site here, it will show you the software components you can download from the site. One of them is ABAP Development Tools, ADT in short, that you require. Then you have the modeling tools for BW4HANA and BW on HANA. You definitely need that. And if you want to work with native HANA modeling also, then you will use SAP HANA Tools. So these three are the most important software components you have to download. These are plugins. These are called Eclipse plugins. So you have to download these plugins. And once you download this, then you will be ready to do modeling with BW4HANA in Eclipse. Okay. And then you will have on the right side, bottom right, you can see we have source systems. So source systems can be SAP source systems. It can be non-SAP source systems. If it's an SAP source system, the technology or the framework you will have to use is ODP, Operational Data Provisioning. So with the ODP, which is the default now with BW4HANA, you can extract data from SAP source systems. But if you have non-SAP source systems like your other data lakes, then you can either get the data in the external schema and then use it, or you can get the data in BW owned schema and then use it. Both ways are possible. But in both the scenarios, you have to first extract data into either BW owned schema or external schema, and then your application server can connect to that data. But when you log in, when you extract data from SAP source systems, by default, it will go to your BW owned schema. It will not go to your external schema. But if you are using SLT or SDA, then you have to create an external schema, load the data there, and then you use it in your application server. So that is the difference between SAP source systems. It is connected via RFC, remote function call, and the non-SAP source systems will be connected either via ODBC or JDBC. Okay. So SDA, for example, is using the ODBC drivers. So using ODBC drivers, you can get the data in an external schema and then use it in the BW. So overall, this is the architecture of BW4HANA. The important thing to understand is the difference between native HANA modeling and BW4HANA modeling. So if you log into HANA Studio and if you are in the development perspective or in the modeler perspective, then these systems, BW4HANA, you can see here, this is database directly. I am not dealing with application server, I'm dealing with database directly, and everything I'm doing in database. But when I talk about BW modeling perspective, now I am talking to the application server, this guy, not the database. So this is an important differentiation you have to keep in mind. And once we have this added, then you can start your modeling. Okay, we'll come back to the Eclipse. Don't worry, at the end of the class, I'm going to show you how these projects are created and how I added these projects. So I'll show you that. Okay, any questions on the architecture?
Yeah, just one question. Like for data lake, what exactly is the underlying mechanism for transferring the data? You just mentioned SDA. Like generally we use DB Connect earlier in SAP side, SAP BW side to transfer such data. Correct.
So DB Connect is no more there. UD Connect, DB Connect, these are obsolete now. Now we have something called HANA local schema or HANA smart data access. So there are multiple technologies you can use for extracting data from external third-party databases. And the most popular is smart data access, which uses ODBC, okay, Open Database Connectivity Protocol and drivers. But you can also use SLT. See, if you want real-time replication, then you go for SLT, which will be based on the DB connection or RFC connection based on what is your source system. Okay, if your source system is in non-SAP, it's a DB connection, not DB Connect. The previous BW had a source system of type DB Connect. That is gone. I'm saying the database connectivity will be used, which is again based on the ODBC, Open Database Connectivity. But triggers will be created on the tables, which you will connect via SLT, and then you can have real-time replication in your external schema. Again, external schema, it will not bring your data in the BW owned schema. That is separate, dedicated for BW. So real-time SLT, batch, or if you want to schedule, you can have smart data access, which is your ODBC drivers. So DB Connect is gone, UD Connect is gone.
Where is the SLT installed?
Good question. So SLT needs an ABAP server. Okay, SLT server can be installed either on the source side. If it is ABAP server is there, then you can install your SLT, or you have to install it on a separate server, which should be ABAP server. Again, SLT needs ABAP. And it should be DMIS. The software is called DMIS, Database Migration Server, 2011. That's the latest version. So you have to install SLT in an ABAP server, and that SLT can connect to your HANA database and send the data. So SLT can be installed either in BW, because BW is ABAP. It can either be installed in S4HANA, because that is also ABAP. Or if you don't have any ABAP server, then you have to install a separate instance, which is ABAP based, and you can install your SLT there.
So does this architecture wrong actually, right? So why is it sitting in HANA DB then?
It's not wrong, but it's basically showing that SLT can connect to your HANA database. SLT is one of the ways you can connect the third-party systems to your HANA database. But you're right, SLT is not installed in HANA database, 100% right. Probably I'll have to show the SLT server here just to make it absolutely clear. But the intention here is that these are the different technologies you can use to connect your third-party system with your HANA database.
Yeah, okay, got it.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Like data lake, what we have seen, you have a diagram down here. So can this BW4HANA be act as a data lake?
Yes, it can, definitely. So if you want your BW4HANA to be your enterprise data warehousing or enterprise data lake, we call it enterprise data hub or enterprise data lake, definitely it can have. It can act as a single source where you dump or you consolidate all your data, and then the other party or other systems, third-party systems will get the data from BW4HANA. For that, either you can use OpenHub or you can use OData connectivity. So there are multiple ways you can send the data out of BW4HANA. But see, usually data lake requires structured and non-structured data both, right? BW4HANA is not meant for storing non-structured data, like your Facebook data, Twitter data, your video files, all those things. Yes, it has capability. I'm not saying HANA database has no capability to do that, but BW4HANA is not meant or is not designed to handle non-structured data easily. That's why we go for Hadoop-based systems or other third-party systems which are geared towards your storing non-structured data. That's why usually you will not see that BW4HANA is your data lake, because when we talk about data lake, we are talking about non-structured as well. But if you're talking about only structured data or converting your non-structured to structured and storing it in a uniform way, definitely BW4HANA can be your data lake.
Okay. Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
So guys,
I have a question.
Yeah, this is the last question I'll take, then we'll move on.
Okay.
Yes, tell me.
Okay. So you have explained that for cloud, there is a house cloud and BW4HANA is on-premise.
Correct.
But BW, I have seen some clients with BW on HANA installed
on
Amazon.
Azure or Google Cloud Platform, right?
That's right. Yeah.
So
what's the difference?
Good question. What is the difference? So your product can be cloud compliant and your product is completely cloud based. This is a difference. There is a big difference. The difference is that this product can be installed on a cloud host, meaning your functionality will not change. Okay, the way you will design will not change. You will still have to use Eclipse there on the cloud. Of course, if it's on Microsoft Azure or Google Cloud Platform or Amazon Web Services, you will still have to design and model everything in the same way how you will do it on-premise. The only difference is your product is hosted on the cloud instead of on-premise. That's all. That is the difference.
Okay.
Functionality wise, there's no difference. But when I'm talking about data warehouse cloud, it is not just hosted on cloud. It is your modeling, your connectivities, everything will be cloud based. That means your containerization, your Kubernetes, all those features which are cloud specific features, your GitHub, all that cloud specific functionalities, your DevOps specific features, you can very easily use with your data warehouse cloud. So it is by design from scratch created for cloud. This BW4HANA is not by design created for cloud, but it can be hosted on a cloud. That's possible. So cloud compliant versus cloud based is the difference between BW4HANA and data warehouse cloud. Okay,
Got it.
That's a good question. All right, so let's move on. I know you might have more questions. Please hold on to them. At the end, we'll have the question and answer session. All right. So when you model in BW4HANA, you model with something called LSA++. In prior BW versions, we had LSA. layered scalable architecture. But that has been enhanced, that has been modified, and now the new way or the new structure we will follow is LSA++. And the LSA++ has 3 layers. Okay, so before we go into the modeling, you should know what an LSA++ looks like and what are the different layers in LSA++. So LSA++ basically has 3 layers. So I'll start from the bottom. In the bottom, I have my source system, which is S4HANA. Now S4HANA has base tables, SD tables, MM tables, FI tables, CDS views, etc. Now we model in S4HANA with CDS views, that is called embedded analytics. But that is our source. Okay. Now from the source, we have something called data sources. So we will not directly go to the table and get the data from there. There is a middle layer, and that middle layer can be data source, also can be CDS views. So that is our source system. From the source, when you load the data into your BW4HANA, the first layer you will design, and the first layer where your data comes and sits is staging layer. Okay, some people also call it corporate memory layer. Some people also call it operational ODS layer. It's one and the same thing. Either it is called staging or corporate memory or open ODS layer. They are talking about the first layer, which is your staging layer. This staging layer is based on or created, this staging layer consists of ADSOs and open ODS views. So either you can have ADSOs or you can have open ODS views, or you can have both. There can be a possibility of hybrid also. But the type of ADSO you will use here is staging ADSO and field-based ADSO. These are field-based, no info objects here, not required. It's not, I mean, that you cannot use info objects. Definitely you can use info objects, but generally it is not recommended to use info objects. You can keep it field-based so that your loading is fast, and then you don't have even activation to be done here. So basically this is only inbound table, and this is your field-based staging ADSO. So your staging layer is based off field-based staging ADSO. And you can also have open ODS view. Okay, these are dotted lines. Why I kept dotted lines? Meaning they don't store data. It's a virtual access. When you talk about open ODS views, we are talking about virtual access, and these have replaced the virtual provider of the past BW systems. So open ODS views as a virtual access, ADSOs is a persistent access. You are actually storing data there. Once you have the data there, the second layer you will move on to is your integrated data warehousing layer. This is again based on ADSOs, and there are 2 types of ADSOs you can have: data mart ADSO and standard ADSO. So both types of ADSOs will sit here in the second layer, which is your integrated data warehousing layer. These are info object based. Mostly they will be info object based, but you can also have field here. You can also have hybrid here. Some fields, some info objects, that is also possible. But usually we keep it info object here. Why? Because we need info object services. What are the info object services? Hierarchies we need, text we need, attributes we need. So these are certain things which is given as a part of info object, not given as a part of field. So that's why the first layer is field based, staging ADSO. Second layer is info object based, data mart or standard ADSO. And the third layer is your virtual data mart layer, which is your composite provider based. So this is a virtual access. These composite providers will sit on top of the ADSOs. And finally, we'll have the BW query, which will be created on top of these composite providers. So this is overall what LSA++ looks like. Okay, there are a lot of blogs, lot of videos, lot of material on the net, which can actually make you confused. So for simplicity, just remember 3 layers in LSA++: staging, integrated data warehousing, and virtual data mart. That's all. In staging, you will have the field-based ADSOs or open ODS views also for virtual access, integrated data warehousing layer, info object based ADSOs, data mart and standard, and your virtual data mart is composite provider. Then on top of that, you can have the reporting layer, which again, as we discussed, cloud based is SAC, business objects on-premise, AO on-premise, Excel, and you can have third-party data sources, third-party reporting tools as well, which will connect either via ODBC or JDBC or BICS. BICS is a proprietary technology, okay, business intelligence consumer services from SAP, which SAC uses in backend. Analysis for Office also uses in the backend to connect to your BW4HANA. So these are the technologies which the reporting tool will use. So this is how usually we do the LSA++ flow. Now, one important thing here is the flow actually is a slightly, I have to update this diagram. It is slightly incorrect. And the correction is that from the data source, it goes to the staging ADSO, but it is, there is a parallel flow from data source to your integrated data warehousing layer, and an info source comes in between. Okay. So it's not that it goes from here to here and then from there to there. So it's basically from data source to your staging ADSO, but in parallel, there's another flow which is from data source to info source to your integrated data warehousing layer. So this is basically a parallel flow, and the data is stored here for the purpose of corporate memory, meaning if there's a problem in your integrated data warehousing layer, and if you have to rebuild, you don't have to go to the source. You can directly source your data from your staging ADSO. That's the main purpose of the corporate memory or staging ADSO. So that's the standard content. Even if you see the standard content, you will see there's a parallel flow, which is used in a daily basis. And this staging ADSO is kept for your issues or future problems, or if you have to rebuild your data, then your staging ADSOs are there. But there is nothing from stopping you from creating this kind of flow, meaning you want first in staging and then only once it is successful, then only go to your standard integrated data warehousing layer. That's also possible. But the standard content flow is there is a parallel flow. Okay. And then you have the composite provider. So this is LSA++. We will go deep into LSA++ when we will create these objects in the system. So don't worry, you will get more familiar when we go into the system. Now, as part of BW4HANA, SAP has given standard content, meaning you don't have to create everything from scratch. SAP has done research for many, many years, and as a result of that research, they have given something called standard content. Standard content is basically to help you kickstart your development and save time. So what is the standard content? Standard content means you will already have advanced DSOs for sales and distribution. You will already have advanced DSOs for FI. You will already have composite providers, OpenODS views, DTPs, transformations. Everything is there as a part of standard content. You can just activate the standard content and you can start using it if your business requirement is satisfied with them, which is usually not the case. So you can have a start, at least. You can have a good start, which will save your time. You don't have to create from scratch. And then you can refer to that standard content. You can copy that standard content into your custom content and then do your modifications, whatever is required. So this is there to help you with your development. And we have data sources, standard content data sources. We have DTPs, transformation, everything. So whatever you have seen in the LSA++ flow here, okay, all these objects are already given to you for different modules, for different functional areas, for SD, MM, FI, plant maintenance, so on and so forth. So you can just activate them, see what is the gap between the customer requirement and the standard content, fill that gap with your custom development, and you can start reporting on it right away. It saves a lot of time. Okay, so the standard content is not new. It was always there as a part of BW, and for BW4HANA also the standard content is there, but now the standard content is LSA++ compliant. So if you go to the material folder here, there must be topic wise material. We have BW4HANA LSA++. Okay, so this is the LSA++ flow. I also have, I think, for standard content, there you go, BW4HANA BI content. If you go here, this PDF will give you the standard content for all the modules. Okay, so if you see here, it will show you the standard content for SD, for MM, for inventory. Say, for example, this is for inventory, right? So as you can see, this is LSA++ compliant standard content flow. What is the flow? You have the data source, you have the corporate memory or staging ADSO, and there is a parallel flow via info source to your integrated data warehousing layer, and then you have your composite provider, which is your virtual data mart layer. So following LSA++ flow, there is a standard content given for most of the modules. I would not say all modules. There are some modules for which standard content for BW4HANA is still being developed and evolved. But for most of the frequently used modules, you will already have the standard content available. Okay. Now, the difference is what has been changed in BW4HANA. First, of course, is LSA++. Arpan, you have raised your hand. Any issues?
I have a question related to this info source flow. So, like, suppose there is some issue in the data, and in that case, how this info source data can be modified?
So, info source does not store data. First of all, you have to understand that, right? We are not storing any data in the info source. Info source is a middle layer which will help you consolidate data from multiple sources into a common target if you want to, and you want a different transformation rules coming from different targets, and one transformation finally from info source to the target. In those scenarios, info source is helping you to have multiple transformations from multiple sources and then finally going to the single target. That is one of the purposes of info source. It does not store data. So if you have an issue in your data, if you have a problem with your data, you have to delete the data from your target, and then in the source, you will always have the corporate memory or the staging ADSO, which will have 1:1 data. Okay, so there is no modification when you load data from your data source to your staging ADSO. It's purely 1:1. So you can reload the data from the staging ADSO via the info source to your target.
Okay, so you mean to say that we have both the flow in this case?
Correct. You have both the flows. The flow which is used in a daily basis is this one, the dotted line.
Okay, got it.
And here, it stops here. The flow which you will use for problems or issues is this flow. Staging ADSO, info source, target.
Okay, yeah.
Got it? So this flow is not a part of your daily flow. The daily flow will involve data source to your staging ADSO, stop there. Data source in parallel via info source to your standard ADSO or integrated data warehousing layer ADSO, and stop there. That's your daily flow. When you have problem, then you will start using the flow from your staging ADSO via info source to your integrated data warehousing layer ADSO. Okay. All right. So now there are two components of standard content in BW4HANA. The first component is cont, and the second component is cont B. Okay, you have to understand the difference between them. BW4HANA cont, BW4CONT, will have subject area specific flows, meaning your FI, SD, MM, etc. And they will have info sources, transformations for the info objects, and the different ADSOs, different composite providers for the subject area specific standard content. Okay, the cont B is your common for all subject areas. This is not subject area specific. And what will that entail? Info objects, info areas, your query variables, conversion exits, and master data read classes. Okay, so if you have only info object, if you are using, which is standard content, and everything else you create custom. Okay, so everything, your transformation is Z transformation, info source is Z info source, your ADSO is Z ADSO, and composite provider is Z composite provider. If everything is custom for BW, only you are using the standard info objects, then you don't need cont. You only need cont B. But if you are using a standard content, or if you are copying from a standard content where info sources are there, transformation is there, ADSO is there, composite provider is there, and you're using that from the standard content, then you will have to use cont as well. Cont B is for your common objects, not subject area specific. Cont is for your subject area specific. So that's what I have given here. There are three scenarios. Scenario one is customer is using the delivered data sources, but customer is building everything Z, info object Z, OpenODS Z, ADSO transformation, everything as Z. Then you just need to enable the ODP for the data sources. Okay, ODP is the default source system type for BW4HANA. So if you don't have ODP enabled in your source, if it's a ECC source, not an S4HANA source, but you still want to use ODP, it's possible. You have to implement this SAP node, and there is a program. You have to release the data sources for ODP. Once you do that, you will be ready to use the ODP. So everything is Z, even your info object is Z, just you use the data source. You don't need cont or cont B. But if you are using the data source plus info objects, standard content, then you need cont B. Everything else is custom. But if you are using data source, info objects plus ADSOs, transformations, composite provided variables from standard content, you will need cont and cont B both. So this is the difference, and you can see here in the system, if I log in, okay, in BW4HANA, again in the properties, you can see we have cont and we have cont B, basis add-on and the content add-on. So you should know the difference between these two. These both are part of your standard content, but based on your scenario, whatever is your scenario, you will either use both of them or one of them or none of them. And then finally, your data warehouse for core is basically your core component for BW4HANA. We have SP4 here. You have to make sure that this DW4 core is 2.0 SP4. So whatever vendor you are using for your hands-on, okay, many times they get confused because they themselves don't know that HANA 2.0 and BW4HANA 2.0 is two completely separate things. When we are talking about BW4HANA 2.0, we are talking about application server, not HANA DB. So, but what they do is they just say that, yeah, I have BW4HANA 2.0 when they actually are referring to HANA database version. So please make sure you go in the project, you go to the system, make sure your DW4 core is 200 and SP level is minimum 4 or above. Why I'm saying 4 or above? Because I'm going to show you features which are introduced in SP4, which were not there prior to SP4. So you will not be able to do all those hands-on exercises, especially for composite providers, if you don't have SP4 or above. Say if you have SP1 or 2, then you will be able to do most of the things, but not few things which are specifically introduced in this particular version. Okay, so that's the difference between cont and cont B.
Yeah, Devanshu, one question.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, so all data sources are like ODP enabled, LO, and FI?
Yes, yes. The standard data sources, depending on your source system, is your source system S4HANA?
Yes.
Okay, so if it is S4HANA and it is 1809, beyond 1809, then by default, the data sources will be ODP enabled. And where can you check whether your data source is ODP enabled or not? So you log into your S4HANA. Okay, this is my S4HANA. Now I'm opening the GUI within Eclipse. So you can open your GUI within Eclipse. You don't have to go to your SAP GUI and log on there if you want to check something there. You can open your GUI within Eclipse and you can see everything in Eclipse itself. So in S4HANA, if you want to make sure your data source is released or enabled for ODP or not, you have to go to a table. Okay, that table is RUSATTR. In RUSATTR, just provide the name of your data source. Say, for example, I'll give 2LSVHDR. Okay, number of entries. Yes, there is an entry. So the data source should have an entry here with the indicator X. If your indicator is X, that means the ODP is enabled for this data source. This data source is released for ODP. But if you have ECC as your source or ECC on HANA, that means prior to S4 HANA 1809, then you have to run a program. There is a program First of all, you have to implement this node, this 2232584. Once you implement that node, as part of that node, a program will come, and via that program, you have to release specifically the data sources for ODP. But if you have 1809 or above, by default, it will be there and you don't have to do anything. But yes, if you create a custom data source, a Z data source, then of course, again, you have to create, you have to execute a program. This is a different program now, and you have to release that for ODP. Okay. All right. So now let's move on to our important T codes. Yeah, $1 million question. So can you guys tell me if RSA1 T code is gone in BW4HANA or not?
It's there, but we can't do modeling from there.
modeling. Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
For administration, we need it.
Correct. So RSA1 T code is not gone in BW4HANA. Okay. RSA1 T code is very much alive. What has been removed from RSA1 T code is the modeling tab. So if you go to RSA1 within Eclipse, okay, it will be there. The T code will not throw you any dump. The T code is very much there. But the first tab you will see is the administration tab. There is no modeling tab anymore. So you cannot do your modeling in your SAP GUI backend. Of course, you can open the GUI in Eclipse, but there is no editor anymore in the backend for your modeling. So then why RSA1 is used? RSA1 is used primarily for these reasons. First reason is your business content activation. If you want to activate your BI content, then you have to go to RSA1, you have to go to your BI content, and then you have to activate whatever module specific objects you want to activate. That is the first usage, because right now there is no native Eclipse editor so far which is given for BI content activation. Second thing, transports. If you want to do transports, then also you'll have to come in the transport connection, and then you'll have to do your transports from there in the backend, SE, SE10, SE11, all those things. You want to collect your objects for the transport request, you have to do it from RSA1. There is no native Eclipse editor so far. And then finally, if you want to do your administration specific tasks, then you have to come to RSA1. Under administration, you will see there are a lot of options. Like for example, if you want to replicate the settings from the source. So say for example, I have my S4HANA. I want to replicate the settings like global settings. Remember the global setting exchange rates. If you want to replicate that, you still have to come to RSA1 and replicate your unit of measurement, fiscal year variance, calendar, etc. So these are some of the administration tasks you do from your RSA1. So these are the three primary tasks for which you still have to come to RSA1, but the modeling, even the process chain, you don't have to come here. Process chain also you can do in BW4HANA cockpit. But there are certain these things. Once the Eclipse editor is available, we'll probably shift to Eclipse. But right now, the other things for which you have to come to RSA1. So RSA1 T code is very much there. The modeling is gone. The second important T code you have to remember is BW4Web. BW4Web is basically for cockpit. So this is your front-end theory-based portal where you will do a lot of your administration and monitoring related tasks. Okay. So the way you can jump is either you go to that T code, BW4Web. The second way is you right-click on your project, and on the project you will see there's an option called Open BW4HANA Cockpit. So both ways you can jump to your cockpit. Okay, this will be on the web, so it will launch your preferred Explorer. Here it is Google Chrome. So I'll just log in here. So this is your, okay, the password is incorrect. Let me use this one. Okay, so I think it's logging in. So this is your front-end web-based, theory-based portal for BW4HANA administration and monitoring activities. So you will have the tiles, theory-based tiles, similar to what you have for S4HANA front-end theory-based tiles. Similarly, for BW4HANA, there are a lot of activities which has shifted from the backend GUI to your BW4HANA cockpit. For example, your process chain monitoring. You can monitor all your process chains from your BW4HANA cockpit. Your ADSO manage. So if you right click on an ADSO and you will say manage, you want to see the requests in the ADSO, then it will jump to BW4HANA cockpit, and there you can do all your managing of the request for an ADSO. Okay. So for the first time, it will take a little bit of a time, as you can see, because it's loading all the Fiori components, it's loading all the web UI HTML5 components. It might take some time, but once you are once you have loaded it for the first time, then from next time onwards, it will load fast. So you will see we have transport management, we have authorizations, we have workspaces, modeling. Under modeling, you cannot do actually the ADSO modeling. By modeling, you mean process chain and analysis authorizations. You have monitoring your process chains, your ODP and ODQ if you want. You can also have your remodeling request you can do from here. Then under data management, you have open hubs, info object manage, ADSO manage, external SAP HANA view manage, so on and so forth. So there are a lot of administration and monitoring aspects which have shifted to BW4HANA cockpit. So we'll be using BW4HANA cockpit a lot, because the DTP monitor, you will come in BW4HANA cockpit and you will do the DTP monitoring. The ADSO manage, you will come here, delete the data, delete request wise selection, selective deletion. All that has been shifted to BW4HANA cockpit. So that's where we will do all our administration and monitoring. Okay. So let's go back. So these are the two important T codes which are still there, and we will use it frequently. But for modeling, we will not use RSA1. We will do the Eclipse modeling. Okay. So difference between HANA modeling and BW4HANA modeling. HANA modeling, as I showed you, you will do in the database directly. This is not the application server. So we are not talking to our application server. We are talking to the database directly. And there we will create our schemas. We will create our tables. We will create the packages, which are for the calculation views. We'll create database procedures. We'll create our table functions, etc. So this is a screenshot where you will do all your modeling. So if I quickly jump to the system, so now I am in my modeler perspective, and that means I'm talking directly to my database. And in database, you will have all these schemas under the catalog, and under content, you will see that you will have all your packages. These are the packages, and under packages, we have calculation views, procedures, table functions, etc. And this is what is called native HANA modeling. That means you are talking directly to your HANA DB and you are creating your models directly in the HANA database. So calculation views is one of the most important artifact, and this is where you will do native HANA modeling. Shikha, yes, you have raised your hand. Just give me 1 minute. Let me complete this and then I'll come back to you. Then you have your BW4HANA modeling. This is where you will talk to the application server, and this is where you will log into the BW modeling perspective. You will do all your modeling here. So if you will expand this, you have BW repository, you have data sources. Under BW repository, you will create the info areas. Under info areas, you will create something called data flow. And within data flow, you will create all your objects. So you can create an objects either independently, or you can also create objects with your data flow. So I'll quickly show you how a data flow looks like in BW4HANA. And this is basically a very good and easy way to create your entire flow in your BW4HANA. So when you model here in the BW4HANA modeling perspective, you are doing application server objects. But when you log into your backend meaning the HANA database through modeler or development perspective, you are talking directly to the HANA DB. So this is how your application server modeling will look like. This is your data flow, complete data flow, which we will also create from scratch. And here you can see we have info source, we have ADSOs, we have your data sources, we have your composite provider, so on and so forth. So this is called BW4HANA modeling. And in the HANA DB, you will do your native HANA modeling. Yes, Shikha, tell me. You have a question? Shikha, can you hear me?
Hello, sorry, I was muted. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you. Go ahead.
Hi. So I noticed that you're using two different screens. In Eclipse, you have the BW modeling tools, and you going switching to another screen for the HANA DB. HANA DB, sorry, the HANA Studio. That
Right.
should also be Eclipse based, right? Isn't it just switching
Correct.
to
You're right.
perspectives?
You're right. Good observation. Okay, so let me tell you why I'm doing that. So ideally, you should not switch. Ideally, you should switch here, right here in the Eclipse, to the development perspective or to your modeler perspective, and you can do everything from here. Native HANA modeling, and if you want to do BW4HANA modeling, you can go to BW4HANA modeling perspective and you can do stuff. The reason I am switching is because of this specific vendor I'm using. See, usually when you deal with vendors, they will give you remote desktop connection, RDP, right? They will ask you to connect to a remote desktop, and then within the remote desktop, you will open the Eclipse and do all your stuff there, right? But this vendor, I am not using remote desktop at all for my BW modeling. So within my local Eclipse, I can add an system and I can do all my modeling without going to the remote desktop. So that's one of the unique features which they have given. But for the native HANA, they were not able to open the ports for the local Eclipse without remote desktop for me to connect. So what happens is, if you want to add it here without going to remote desktop, there are some ports you have to open on the HANA database, so that the local Eclipse on my local desktop, without going to RDP, I can connect. They were not able to do that. They were facing some issues in the ports, opening the ports. That's why only for the HANA database, I have to switch to VDI. This is VDI.
I see. Okay.
So within VDI, I'm doing. But in your case, if you are dealing with a vendor who is giving you remote desktop connection, then you don't need to switch between two screens. Within this Eclipse, you can switch back and forth between BW modeling and your HANA modeling. You're right, absolutely right. But this is just the vendor which I'm using. That's the issue.
Okay, that helps. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So now let's move on to licensing. Okay. So guys, it's 10 o'clock. What we'll do is we will take a quick 5 minutes break, because it's been quite some time we have been spending on the theory. So we need a break. Let's join back. Right now it's 10:07. So let's reconvene at 10:15 and then we will continue our remaining topics. So let's take a break for 8 minutes. Okay, I'll be back on 10:15. Let me pause the recording for the time being. Okay, let's check again quickly. You guys can hear my voice okay?
Yes.
Perfect.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so let's discuss the BW4HANA licensing, how it is licensed. So basically, there are two types of licenses for BW4HANA. One is called REAB, which is only BW4HANA application. Okay. And the other one is called Full Enterprise Edition. So BW4HANA, because it is sitting on top of native HANA, which is HANA database, it will definitely be licensed in the chunk of 64 GB. So 64 GB, 128 GB, and then 516 GB, etc. Will be there, right? So based on two things. First is, of course, your size of the database. That means, is it 64 or 128 or 516 or 1 terabyte or 2 terabyte, whatever is the block size, whatever is the size of the HANA database. Plus, the second thing which you have to choose is the type of license for BW4HANA, which can be REAB or full use. Okay, RE stands for runtime edition and B stands for BW. So that means you are saying runtime edition only BW. That means the application, runtime edition means the application. I am only buying the license for my application. That means if you want to do native HANA modeling, then your runtime edition of BW will not suffice. You cannot create your calculation views, your DB procedures, your native HANA stuff, and you cannot integrate them with your BW for HANA objects like composite providers if you only have REAB, which is your runtime edition. Actually, it's not REAB, it should be REB, which is runtime edition for BW. A stands for application. So if you have additional applications, you can have REAB, and there is another one which is even less than REAB, which is REB, runtime edition for BW, which is your only BW application. But if you want to use native HANA modeling also, you want to create your CVs and you want to use the CVs in your composite provider, then you have to go for full enterprise edition license, which is basically your native HANA plus your BW4HANA. So as you can see, we have the runtime edition. Okay, the runtime edition is specific to application, meaning you have to choose. For S4HANA is also the same. You have to choose. You want the HANA database with only one application, or you want full use. That means your native HANA plus your application plus your hybrid, etc. So if you choose only HANA runtime edition, that means you are saying that I only want BW. I don't want native HANA stuff. I'm happy with BW. Okay. Same will be for S4HANA or BW4HANA. And if there are other applications, SAP applications, then those are application specific licenses. Okay. So within the runtime edition, there are two subtypes, REB and REAB. REB is runtime edition for only BW, and REAB has some applications included, which includes all capabilities of REB plus other SAP application. So this is the difference. Okay, the bottom one is REB, and then there are some other applications if you want. Those applications also like smart data integration, SDI, like SLT replication, like your ASC, like your rules framework, HANA rules framework, HRF. Okay, so if these things you need along with your BW, you have to go for REAB. And if you don't need a smart data integration, you don't need your SLT, you are happy with these features, which is your BW plus some of the predictive analytics plus your series data, etc. Then you can go for REB, which is your runtime edition for BW. It will not include SDI, it will not include SLT, but it will include SDA. Okay, SDA, it does not require a separate license. SDA is part of any HANA database, but if you need SDI, which is smart data integration, then you need a separate license, which will be covered under your REAB. And then if you're still not satisfied, you want the full use edition without any restrictions, then you can go for SAP HANA full use, which will be giving you all the features which you want, native HANA. So with your full use edition, there are no limitations on modeling administration. You can use your web IDE, which is your new web-based front end for your 2.0 modeling, your SAP HANA web IDE, Studio, etc. Everything you can do. Okay. Within full use, also there is a standard edition and the enterprise edition. Okay. The enterprise edition will include these series data, operational process intelligence, your EA designer, enterprise architecture designer, dynamic theorem, data foundation, etc. And the enterprise edition within the full use will have streaming analytics, will have your EIM, which includes your SDI also, your spatial graph, your privacy, your text analytics, your application, etc. Okay. So this is for the native HANA also. You want to do all that, all the additional features, then you will go for enterprise edition within full. So please remember, so we have two sub editions within the REB, which is REB and REAB. REB just for BW, REAB will include your SDI and SLT, and some additional applications. But it will not include the native HANA side, the native HANA modeling and all those things. If you want native HANA modeling also, then you will go for full use edition. Now, when you go for full use, SAP is going to ask you, okay, within full use, what is the subtype you want to use? Standard full use or enterprise full use? If you go for enterprise full use, you have everything. If you have standard full use, you will still have certain things which will not be included. And please remember, this is in addition to the block size you have chosen for your HANA database. So that is definitely the first thing you have to choose. How big is your HANA database? And then on top of that, you have to choose what type of versions you will create. I mean, what type of licensing you will need. Okay, so this is the enterprise edition, standard edition, and enterprise edition. Standard edition plus these options will give you enterprise edition. Yeah, I have a couple of participants raising hands, so just let me complete this and then I will come to your questions. So this is just a comparison between the runtime, the REB, REAB, and the full use edition. So there are two types of edition, and then within them, within the runtime edition, REAB and REB, within the full use edition, enterprise and standard, there is a comparison, and you can see diagrammatically what is included and what is not included. So basically, you have to choose first your version of your, the size of your HANA DB. Okay, let me summarize this. So first, you have to choose HANA DB size. And then you choose the license, meaning you want runtime or you want your full use. Within runtime, you have REB, runtime edition only for BW, or you can have REAB, that means some of the additional applications like SLT, SDI will be included, but not native side. Full use means now you are saying native side also I need. We have standard full use and we have enterprise full use. So both of them will give you features. Enterprise is basically the overall set, superset, similar to REAB in the runtime, which has superset REAB plus something. So enterprise is standard plus something. And with these two, you will be able to choose the correct license and then you'll have to pay for the license. Yes, questions?
Does the number of users impact the licensing cost?
That's a good question. Number of users. I
guess
think there is
here we have to differentiate between the HANA license and the SAP apps users, right?
Correct, exactly. So that's why I'm saying there are two components here. One is your HANA license, which is based on your chunks of 64 GB. And then you have to choose the application license, which is your runtime or your full use. Correct. Now, number of users, I'm not 100% sure, but I think it will impact. This license will allow you a certain number of users. I think I might be wrong though. This will allow you a certain number of users. If you go beyond that number of users, then I think you have to pay extra. But until you reach that limit, I think certain number of users are covered under this license. But I have to check that. That's something which I don't have details on. I'll welcome anybody who has some insights on number of users, but I think it does have impact, but beyond a certain point it has impact.
Okay.
Shikha, question? You raised your hand.
No, I'm good. I got answered. I was asking about dynamic tiering. Is it only available in full use? But I later on saw in the comparison, it's also in the BW version. Yeah. Thanks.
Hey,
Devanshu. Oh, sorry.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I had a question like.
Yeah, there you go. Dynamic tiering is there. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
Can you hear me? Okay. So if we use like Fiori like best app on based on Bex queries, do I need any extra license, or that can be just done using RFC connection between S4 to BW4?
Okay, good question. First of all, Bex is gone. There is no Bex query anymore in BW4HANA. It's obsolete. So you will create something called BW analytic query in Eclipse. Okay. Within Eclipse, you'll have to create a query. So if you have a composite provider, on top of the composite provider, say for example here, you will within Eclipse, you will right click and you will say new and you will say query. Okay. So Bex is gone. Now, if you want to use the Fiori tile with the query details, if you want to see the query details on the Fiori tile, I don't know, I have not seen any Fiori tile in the cockpit See, when you're talking about Fiori tiles, you are talking about BW4HANA cockpit. So I have not seen, sorry.
No, Devanshu. When I say Fiori tile, that is like on a S4HANA Fiori tile. So probably if we can connect the S4 RFC connection, if we can create S4 RFC connection to BW4, and that way can we connect that?
Why do you want to connect S4HANA Fiori to a BW query?
Like to just reduce the cost of reporting. So I don't means if the client doesn't want to go for a front end tool like SSE or BO, then they can probably expose their like this query things to Fiori, which is coming free as S4 implementation. Then they can actually use that Fiori tile for their reporting purpose, just for
yeah. Okay, if that is your use case, then yes, it's possible. It's possible. You have to expose the query as an O data, okay, service. So in the query, if you see the query, let me open an existing query. If we have, let's see if I have any. Okay, so there you go. So I think it's possible. I have not worked on that scenario, but I think it should be possible. So what you have to do is, for Fiori tiles, you can expose them via O data service. Okay, and in the remote access in the query, there is a checkbox which is called by O data. Okay, so if you expose this by O data, meaning now a service, O data service, can connect to this query, and via that you can expose that into a tile in the Fiori, and you can use that. I think it's possible. Yes.
Okay, and for that, do I need any extra license? Means obviously not, right?
No, I don't think so. You won't require any extra license.
Okay.
And I think same can also be done in BW4HANA cockpit. I'm not sure. Maybe it can be done in the cockpit as well, because even for BW4 cockpit, you don't need a separate license. It comes along with the BW4HANA license.
Okay.
But if you want all your reporting in one place in your S4 Fiori, then yes, you can do that. But for S4, usually the analytics, which is there, is embedded analytics, CDS view based. So you can see all your CDS view based reporting from S4 in your Fiori tile. And you can also expose your BW query. Okay, but don't call it BEX anymore. BEX is gone. Let's call it BW analytic query.
BW analytic. Thank you.
Yeah.
Devanshu, like I just have a query. Like you have shown the BI content, right?
Yes.
So is the BI content now called like BW4 B? Sorry, BW4
No. That is a technical term in the backend. It's still called BI content. For a consultant like you and me, we will still refer to that as BI content. Right. But in the backend, what are those software components installed is called BW4 and BW4 B.
Okay,
that's
so
all.
I want to understand, like I am establishing, say, suppose a standard data flow, right, from BW content, BI content.
Right.
So, so how do we differentiate, like from this angle of BW B or BW? So how do we understand, like, what is it?
So that is, see, for example, if you're using just the data source, okay, and you're using the info objects, but you're not using transformations, you're not using ADSOs, you're not using the composite providers, you're not using DTP from the standard content. So that means you are not using the BW4 cont. You're only using cont B features, meaning your data sources and your info object. Okay. But if you start using the transformations, if you start using the DTPs, ADSOs, now you're also using cont, because cont is your module specific data flows. So you are using them. See, it's just for your understanding for the backend component what you are using. But from an application usage point of view, there is no difference with what we used to do prior to BW4HANA and what we will do in BW4HANA. It's the same thing. But I just showed you that so that you know the difference between cont and cont B, and you know that if you use these particular objects, you are using cont B features or you are using cont features. That's all.
Okay. So the standard objects, you mean like the 0 version, right? Like what we use.
Yeah, the 0 version, the 2 LIS version, all the 0 versions are the process is exactly the same. You go to RSA1, you go to BI content and you activate it.
Right.
You don't have to worry about cont and cont B. Okay, that is taken care by default by backend. I just showed you so that when you see these software components, you don't get confused at why there are two. What does the two mean? That's all.
Okay, let me show one more question. Like we spoke about like the data lake, right? Data lake. HANA's system can also act as a data lake, but you said like it is better to use it for the structured data and for the not for unstructured data, right?
For BW4HANA does not easily handle the unstructured.
Right.
HANA database, if you just talk about HANA, simple HANA database, right? Then it can handle. It can 2.0 can handle unstructured data easily, but not BW4HANA.
So, and we do have XSL object and video type info object where the BW info object is there, right?
Yes,
where
you have the XXL. You have
where we
XXL.
can store the video files and all.
But again, it's not as easy or as seamless as it sounds. So XXL, using the XXL info object, you have to do a lot of configuration. And then in SSE also, if you want to use it, you have to do a lot of custom configurations, troubleshooting. It's not as easy as you can do in Hadoop based systems or just native HANA 2.0 system without any BW. So BW4HANA definitely can handle it, but not recommended for unstructured data.
So then, Demanju, like what is the base tool? Like if we say like the data is coming from various sources,
yes.
Like we have multiple sources like flat file, like Hadoop or like something like that.
Yeah.
Because we say Hadoop can, hold all the data like structured, unstructured. But if the data is coming from Hadoop, then how do we handle that in BW, like both the structured and unstructured?
So when the data is coming from these third-party sources, including Hadoop, you are actually mostly, 90% of the time, you will store the data in a structured way. Even when you are getting the data from third-party like flat file, you have to have a structure. A data source has to be defined. Right. For other third-party systems also, it will be stored in a table, a proper table with data types as char or int or timestamp. So that you are actually, when you are loading the data in BW, you are actually storing it in a structured way, not a normal normal video file cannot be stored so easily in the BW4HANA, right? In HANA database, you will have to create special tables with special data types to handle those, right? So by default, you are actually, when you are storing the data from these external systems, you are storing structured data only, not non-structured data.
Okay.
Okay, so this is the licensing. Then we will quickly go to the tools. So now you should know what are the tools you should be familiar with when we are working with BW4HANA. So first tool is your Eclipse. So you have to download your Eclipse and you have to install the plugins. So let me first close the projects and we will start from fresh. Okay, so I'm closing the projects. I am deleting the projects. Okay, so we will have a fresh start. So the first tool you'll have to use is Eclipse. So you have to download Eclipse. It's free of cost. It's an open source IDE, integrated development environment. So you can go to eclipse.org and then download the Eclipse. Now, once you download the Eclipse, the second step is go to help, go to install new software, go add a site. That site should say something like this: tools.hana.ondemand.com/2020-03 or 2006, whatever is the latest. Here it's 2019-12. You can also use this, that's fine. And then you have to install ABAP, ADT, you have to use modeling tools, and you have to use HANA tools. So these three, once you install, you will have the perspectives added. What are the perspectives added? From the ADT, ABAP perspective will come. From the modeling tools, BW modeling will come. And from the HANA tools, your development, administration, modeler, plan-based, etc. will come in. We also have other perspectives: Java, Java Enterprise Edition, Web, XML, etc., which we will not use for our modeling. This is for native application development. So once you have that, then you have to come to BW modeling perspective. Once you have your BW modeling perspective, make sure there are few important views which are there in your editor. One is the properties view. one of the most important view is the properties view. Second most important view is your outline view. Okay, keep that in your Eclipse all the time in the BW modeling perspective. If you don't see this, then what you have to do is go to Windows, go to Show View, go to Other, and type here outline, for example. Okay, so you click on outline and it will be added. So properties view, very important. Problems view, another view which will give you the details of if there is any problem or if there is any error, then you can see in the problems view. Outline view, another very important one. Info provider view, this is also important from a BW standpoint, because when you will create composite providers or you will create a query, all the details of the underlying info providers will be in the info provider view. So another important view. And project explorer. So project explorer is usually not used for native HANA development. But for BW development, it will be highly used, and it is mandatory to have projects added to the Project Explorer. So the way you will start is, first step, make sure your systems are added to the backend GUI. That is your first step. If you don't add your systems to the backend GUI, you will not be able to see them in the Eclipse. So your first thing is add your system in the backend GUI. So I have my BW4HANA 2.0 SP4 and I have my S4HANA 1909 added. Now the second step, what I will do is, in the Project Explorer, I will right click and I will say new and I will say project. In the project, what I will do is, I have two types of project which I am interested in, ABAP project and BW project. You'll have to create both for a BW system. Okay, I'll tell you why you will need ABAP project also. So BW project is the first project you will create. Click on BW project, click on next. When you click on next, this is showing you all the backend systems you have added in the GUI. That's why I said step number one is very important. If you don't add it in the GUI, you cannot see it here. So right now I'm interested in BW4HANA. Choose that, click next. It will show you the application server. It will show you the instance number. Make sure it is all correct. If you have SNC, which is the secure networking, I don't have it activated. I don't need it. So I will leave it as by default. Click on next. Now it's going to ask you the client. The client is 100 for BW. The user ID is my name and the password. So I'll enter the password. What password is this? The same password what you will use to log in the backend. The same password you have to give. So basically a project is a connection between your Eclipse and your backend's BW server. So that's why project is the most important thing you have to create. Click on next. Oh no, not this, sorry. The user ID is BW4HANA 3. Okay, so once you click on next, then it will ask you to enter a project name. So give a meaningful name. So I will give BW B4H. I'll just give 01 A underscore B4H BW. Okay, I'll tell you why I'm giving this naming convention, but let's for the time being keep this. So 01A B4H BW4HANA BW project. What type of project is this? BW project. You can add it to a working set. So I have a working set for GetTrain, that is a server vendor. You can add it there so that if you only want to see GetTrain servers, you can filter and you can see GetTrain servers. Click on next. Then it comes attach HANA system. Attach HANA system means if you want to do hybrid modeling, meaning you want to create your composite provider and you want to add a calculation view, which you will create, then you need to attach the system to your project. Only then you will be able to see HANA related packages and schemas in the Eclipse in this particular BW modeling itself. So you can attach the system. Right now I don't have it, so I'll skip this. Click on finish. So this is basically the connectivity is being established between my Eclipse project and my backend BW connectivity. Okay, so here we have BW repository. If you expand this, yeah, Nagarjuna, just wait for a few minutes. I'll just complete this and I'll come to you for the questions. So BW repository is there. We have data sources separately. So please remember, data sources is listed separately now in the Eclipse. It is not part of the repository. Repository will give you the info areas and the objects within the info areas. For example, I have my info area with my name. I have all the objects. I have the data flow. I have the process chain, composite provider, open ODS view, ADSO, all the advanced ADSOs, open hub, etc. So everything is in the info area within repository. And the second is data sources. If you want to connect to data sources from CDS views, standard data sources, your flat file, your local schema, your smart data access, everything you can see and connect from your data sources. So this is how you will establish a connection between the Eclipse and the backend server. Same thing you will do for S4HANA also. But now I'll tell you why we need the second type of project, which is by ABAP project. So click on this ABAP project, click on next. Same thing, choose the BW server, go to next. Everything is fine. Let me give the password. Okay, click on next. Now what I will do is I will choose this and I will say 0A B, B for H, ABAP. Because the type of project is ABAP, I also want to add it in the getter in working set. Click on finish. So ABAP project is also required. Okay, I'll open it later. So ABAP project is also required because in BW, when you will write routines in transformation, when you will check the tables for advanced DSO, you will need an ABAP project. So let me give you an example. So if I close this project, and by the way, once you are done with your work, the best practice is to always go and right click and close the project. Closing the project does not mean that it will delete your objects. No, it is just you are logging off from the server. That's all. So if I have a ADSO, suppose if I want to check the ADSO, let me open ADSO from a data flow. Okay, I always go through the data flow. It's easier for me because in data flow I can visualize the entire data flow there. Okay, so suppose this is my ADSO. Double click on this, you will see the ADSO will open up. And in this ADSO, if you want to see the tables, what are the backend tables? Again, I told you properties view is one of the most important one. So if you go to property, go to DDIC, you will see the tables of advanced DSO. You will see that inbound table is the first, then active table, then changelog table. Then we have 3 DB views. 6 is for extraction, 7 is for reporting, 8 is for your external SQL view. So we'll discuss all that when we'll discuss ADSO. But I just want to show you the example of why ABAP project is required. So now if you click on this table, suppose you want to see the structure of the table or definition of the table. So if you click on that, it is saying open ADT link, choose a project. It is asking you for an ABAP project. So if you don't have an ABAP project, then you will not be able to open the definition of the tables. You will not be able to do transformation routines. You will not be able to check something which needs ABAP, right? So because this table is based on the ABAP data dictionary, that's why it's asking for ABAP project. The project is closed. So I'm going to click on show closed project. This is my ABAP project. Click on OK. It's going to ask you for password because that project is a closed one. So now you're logging into that project. So I'll give the password. And once it finds an ABAP project, then it will successfully show you the definition of the inbound table like this. So this is the definition of your inbound table. You can see that what are the annotations used. This is a transparent table, cannot be extended. This is the inbound table for this area. So what are the key fields? These are the key fields. Now, if you also want to, this is a native Eclipse editor for the table. But many of us are familiar with the GUI SE11 or SE16. So if you want to do that, that's also possible. What you have to do is just click here on the table name, right click on it, you say show in, open with SAP GUI. So if you want to get that familiar look and feel for the inbound table, it's possible. This is your SE11 and there you can see your same information what you can see in your native Eclipse editor. This is native Eclipse editor. This is CDS syntax. Okay, this is not a CDS view, but this is a CDS table. This is a CDS table syntax. And same thing you can also check in S11. So that's why it is important for you to have both types of project. BW project for BW system, ABAP project for BW system. So we will heavily use both the types of project. Yes, questions. So let me do this. Hold on, guys. Hold on to your questions. So I will stop the session for today here, okay? And then we will start the post-session question and answer, because I'm going to stop the recording and then I'm going to start the recording again for the post-session. I have few more things to cover, which I will cover as part of your question and answer only. I just wanted to show you the BW4HANA cockpit, which I've already covered. The Eclipse, these are some Eclipse shortcuts, okay? So keyboard shortcuts, if you want to open GUI within Eclipse, what is a keyboard shortcut? So I've given you the frequently used keyboard shortcuts for Eclipse, and you can check that. All right, so let me stop the recording for today.